Welcome to the Wisdom of Age. Today, I want to pose a question to you. How do you act when you're happy? How do you act when you're sad? And how do you act when you're confused? Today, we're going to study the life of King Hezekiah and the mistake that he did that exposed him and caused his children to become eunuchs and slaves in another nation. So in 2 Kings chapter 20, verses 12 to 21, we see that the son of the king of Babylon, who is called Merodach Baladan, that is to mean son of Baladan. Baladan was the king of Babylon. He sends a letter and presents to King Hezekiah when he gets wind of the news that King Hezekiah was unwell. And I think this, based on this scenario, it seems to be a very rare occurrence to get such a letter. So King Hezekiah is so elated, and he decides to welcome the embassy of the king of Babylon. And he goes on to do this, what we are shown in verse 13, that King Hezekiah rejoiced and welcomed the embassy and showed them all his treasure house, the silver, gold, spices, precious ointment, his armory, and all that was found in his treasuries. There was nothing in his house or in all his realm that Hezekiah did not show them. So he shows them everything. And as you know, in the history, even as you refer to the Bible, Babylon has been an enemy for most nations. It has been a system of manipulation and enslavement. It's still the system that is running the world today, although we will talk about that in a separate video. So one of the things that King Hezekiah did, and is very foolish, of which you and I should never do, is to suspend discernment. So he suspends discernment by welcoming the embassy and showing them all the things that he has. Instead, he should have asked himself, why did this son of a king just send me a letter? Has he done it before? What could be his intentions? Does he really mean good? Those are the questions that he should have asked. But the enemy of sight, I say, is normally emotions. When you choose to lean on your emotions, you lose understanding. And that's why the word of God tells us that to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and minds, and not to lean in our own understanding. In all his ways acknowledge him, because our minds can misdirect us, our hearts can also misdirect us. So we see Isaiah comes and asks, from verse 14 to 18, Isaiah comes and asks the very specific questions that King Hezekiah, if he had discernment, should have asked. He asked very specific. Say, what did the men say? The embassy that was sent from Babylon, of which it's King Hezekiah who welcomed them. From where did they come from? What have they seen in your house? These are the discerning questions that the king should have asked, because not everyone means well or meant well for him. So the lesson that we are picking from that is that no one should have easy access to your heart and mind, because there are people, the most you should do is to have a handshake interaction. And the moment you start exchanging ideas, they begin to read through your mind, they begin to read through your heart. And so you should be very careful about who you open up to and who you share your heart with. This includes both men and women. Be very careful. So, and we see now, because King Hezekiah acted foolishly, the Lord gave a judgment to King Hezekiah because he did not act wisely. Because this visitation was just a precise exposure to the enemy for them to form a weapon to attack them. Because remember this, no one will ever attack you based on what they don't know. If you've been in a situation where you've been gossiped about and all that, it's because of the information that people know about you. Even your character is always sending an information. But when you choose to open up your life and give out your words, you empower your enemy to form a weapon against you. That's why most of the time it's good to just be quiet and discern people. Discern people. Don't trust people easily. So what we see is that the reason why the king of Babylon actually sent the son and the embassy, it was more of a spy mission. They took advantage. They spied. We see he shows them the gold, the silver, and even the armory. Like your weapons. This is the capacity that we have to fight. And so the Babylonians, it's like they went back and said, now we know the capacity that this king has. Now we know how we can beat him. And with verse 16 to 18, we see that the Lord, through Isaiah, releases a judgment, a judgment prophecy to show he was not pleased by that decision. He should have actually consulted God. Because we see King Hezekiah, even from verse 1, and even after he's aware of his illness, and Isaiah tells him that he needs to put his house in order. We see this is a person who had relationship with God. So I don't think there was anything that would have stopped him from praying and seeking wisdom. And one of the most important things that we need to remember is that every decision, thought, plan should follow the path of wisdom. And the path of wisdom is this: consulting God. As just Proverbs tells us, that trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. All your ways acknowledge him. Not some ways, all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. So when you lean on God's understanding, or when you lean in God's wisdom, you get God's results. When you lean in your own understanding, you get results like this of Hezekiah. You'll find that your plans do not prosper. Some people just carry negative energy. One of the things that I normally say, if you know you have a plan to do something, do it, then tell the people that you've already done it. Then think about it and tell people. Most of the time it will not happen. So the foolishness of King Hezekiah is seen again in verse 19, because this guy was so, I don't know what kind of a person he is. I mean, if you read chapter 20, you see very contrasting person who has different characters. On one point, he looks like he's dependent on God. On another point, he also forgets himself and is a person of emotions. On the other point, he looks like a person who doesn't care as long as it's about him. Because you see, a judgment is released from verse 16 that says that, then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the time is coming when all that is in your house and that which your forefathers have stored up till this day shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left. You hear? Everything that you have shall be carried to Babylon. Verse 18, and some of your sons who shall be born to you shall be taken away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of Babylon's king. You know, to be a eunuch is not supposed to be to give birth. So in a way, they were being castrated. So you cannot have children. That is the judgment that is being released to the son, to some of the sons who will be born of his house. May not be exactly like the sons who will come from his loins, but could be his children's children. Then verse 19 is our place of focus. Then said Hezekiah to Isaiah, the word of the Lord you have spoken is good. You hear? Is good. For he thought, that is King Hezekiah, is it not good if all this evil is meant for the future and peace and security shall be in my days? I mean, who thinks about that? Think about the principle in Proverbs that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. This person should have gone to his knees and cried for mercy and asked God, by the way, this judgment, can you lift it up? I've done a mistake, I've exposed myself and all that. But he says, as long as in my days I'm peaceful, then I'm okay. It's like a man saying, I've worked so hard, simi nimefika hapa niko tu sawa, watoto wangu watafanya nini? Watajipanga. That is it's very risky. It's good to carry your family every place you go, pray for them, mean them good and think about them. But that's not what King Hezekiah does. So in short, he was saying, it doesn't concern me as long as I'm okay. You get? So with all this that we've gone through, one of the lessons that is sticking out that we need to be very careful in life is that watch what you say to people. Watch how you act when you're happy. Watch how you act when you're sad. Watch how you act when you're going through the vicissitudes of life. Let your words be few. Even the Bible tells us that God is in heaven and we are on earth. Let our words be few. So, think about what you're thinking about and think about what you want to tell people. It's better to be called a person who is very careful with his words than to be an open can that can be accessed by every fly. This is the wisdom of age, and I'll see you on the next one.